All right, so we're going to get to that in just a second, but you talked about the draft meetings. I think everybody's kind of fascinated by this. We always hear, oh, get everybody in the building, we lock ourselves away for 2 weeks, and then we kind of get our initial board together. What's it actually like in those meetings? Is it, hey, somebody throws a player out there and then everybody talks about kind of just give us a little sample of what it would be to be in that room.
It's more organized, like we have a
I know you.
that we go
There's no doubt there's a process.
Systematically, but yeah, like our area scouts, headed up by like Max, our college director, do a really good job of scouring the country, and we put a lot of work on them to get a sense of what the classes look like by position, regionally, and they're doing a lot of digging in terms of trying to understand who the people are that we could be bringing in, as well as some of the components to them as a player. And so that's their chance to sort of, sit at the table, stand on the table, push things underneath the table, do whatever they got to do to help us better understand who we're could potentially be bringing into the building. And it starts from there, So it's just really a grind. I wouldn't say it's complicated in terms of what we're talking about. We're talking about, who they are as people, what are their strengths and weaknesses in terms of on the field, off the field. What are some resources we could potentially provide as an organization or as a operation to help them be the best version of themselves and help put this team where we want it to be. And really we take in all that information and sift through it and really build out what the next 2 months look like in terms of follow-up, analysis, and ultimately like driving to a key decision or decisions.
Let's say player X is it's his in the process, the natural flow of that. It is now time to talk about player X. Do you in those 2 weeks, those draft meetings, is the goal to get a consent, like at the end of the player X session, be like, this is our position on this player, and this is where we're slotting him until we get more information?
I would say, it's happening in the first week of February, so you're definitely not taking a hard position. Yes, there's some players, you look at Miles in a February meeting, and you're like, this dude's pretty good, so you feel pretty good about that analysis. But sometimes it really is working through the full process, not only to understand what their physical capabilities and ceilings are, but really, again, how they understand and take in the game. How do they learn some of the personal dynamics and family history to sort of, you're not only drafting them,
human being.
You're drafting a person who potentially has kids, or they have, family members with maybe conditions, and you may have to plan to build resources around that. So it's really like you want to know as much as you can, so you're not surprised, right?
Yep.
And then also you have enough at your disposal if you do need to pivot, or if you do need to kind of work through a couple of things. Enough about player X in order to do that in a good way.
How many players are at the combine, for example?
I think it's 329 this
329. Year. So I think some people think that there's a board where all 329. By this point, what percentage of that 329 is on the Browns board?
I'll give you a loose. I'll give you a loose 80.
Okay, 80. And then from here, typically you'll come here, and that'll get whittled down just a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd say that. So you have probably like the group's board is probably different than Andrew's board. I'm sure in his mind he's got probably less than, even past this point, maybe less than 50% that he's really honed in on. But that's, of course, I think all GMs I've been around kind of work that way, where to me there's always a separate.
And it's always going down.
There's always like a separate mental draft board that
for sure
exists. But honestly, you're really working through. Sometimes you're working through more about like, hey, this player may not be the best fit, as opposed to this is the guy, And so by process of elimination, you kind of work yourself and whittle yourself down to, hey, these are the guys we really feel great about bringing into the building, people, players, and the nine. So I think it's sometimes it's more the inverse of what people may think, where it's like, all right, we want these 15 guys. It's a little bit of like, process of elimination.
And you have to understand where they'll be available. You can't just say, I want the top 20 guys in the draft.
Yeah, there's
you
so
can
many,
get one of them.
Yeah, there's so many things that go into it.
So you get that. You're starting to whittle this down. You come here. What is the most important information gathering that you do while you're here in Indianapolis to further kind of hone that board?
I'd say, one, it's really important to take advantage of every touch point. If you think about it, we get 20 minutes with them in a room in a formal meeting, and then they take the whole group to the informals, which you can spend probably twice, 2x that amount of time. So essentially you may get an hour as an organization with said player here. It's really just maximizing that time. So that's where the draft meetings and all the work that's done in the fall comes into play, because now you can kind of pinpoint and distill like, hey, we need to really hit on these 3 things. And for some players, it's learning. It could be how they learn. It could be the volume of information they could take. You could be sort of just trying to get a better picture of something that may have happened in terms of the career trajectory or the roadmap to how they got to where they are, just for us to better understand, all right, for example, maybe you didn't play your first year, you played a little bit your second year, you really took off your third year. Kind of talk us through what caused that. What did something happen in your first season, or was there an epiphany moment for you that really helped you take off as a junior,
Sure.
Or as a redshirt junior or senior? So it's really just trying to piece the puzzle together, and it doesn't all happen here, but you'd be remiss not to take advantage of the time. And so it's really, that's the one piece where that's, like I said, it's the first opportunity to get it kind of from the source themselves. And the second thing is, you think about the tons of people who migrate to Indianapolis during this time. There's a lot of things happening, a lot of people around that you can converse with and just pick up little nuggets and sort of kind of pull it together. And then we come back and sort of download it all into one place. And you get a better picture. It's not a perfect picture, but you get a better picture of maybe what's going on.
All right, so I have a couple of questions. Number one, so do you guys come here, do you have like a dossier on the players? Because in an informal situation, do you know who on the staff is going to get to talk to which player, or is it kind of, because it's informal, it could be anybody?
Yeah, so like we'll have a meeting with the coaches and kind of walk them through like, hey, these are maybe the 40 to 50 guys that we have specific things that we want you to hit on, and
you give them that. Okay,
we know you're going to talk to the said individual.
Yep.
On Wednesday when they get in, or Thursday night when they get in. So like let's
hit on this,
and then we'll document it all as in our internal database. And then there's just some, hey, just have a conversation with them.
Yep.
Like you have the time, you maybe can get 20 or 30 minutes. You kind of do what you need to do as a position coach or as someone on the personnel staff, and just spend time. And also, I think some of the best opportunities are walking on the street. I was just walking on the street with one kid. One young man. He was going to get lunch with his representation, and it was just like, how you doing? Like, what's going on? What are you most excited about? Yeah, and then you sneak a few questions in.
You can build a rapport, sure.
Yeah, and it's just stacking all that information over time, and hopefully you've built a nice reservoir of information to understand, again, who this person is.
Part of it's also understanding what's going on and what people are thinking. You mentioned those informal conversations. So in my mind, there's like the Cleveland Browns rumor board, right? Everything that everybody kind of heard while they were out in the street, and you bring together, find out if there are some common themes, right?
Yeah, I think we bring back the intelligence, and we try to piece and
that's probably a fun part of it.
It is. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise.
Of course. Everybody knows that everybody's doing it.
It's probably way less signal than people think. But, you can pick up a few things here and there. And honestly, if you just pick up one or two, that's more than nothing. So, I think our group and Andrew is very, very much on top of us about making sure, you listen twice as much as you talk. And, you pick up on what you can pick up on. For sure.
And you definitely can pick up on things. There's sometimes some very poorly kept secrets in Indianapolis. For me, the big one was the year we came here when Daniel Jones was in the draft. He was going to be a Giant.
Yeah.
And that was known in February. And the draft had to unfold. It's not like he was, picked first where they had the pick, but Daniel Jones
sometimes it happens,
was a Giant.
Sometimes it happens.
You get some of that stuff. All right. Speaking of quarterbacks, picking second, an opportunity. Obviously, we know it's the most important position in all professional sports, certainly in the sport that you are an assistant general manager in. How do you what's your philosophy on evaluating quarterbacks? What are the things that are the most important to you, to Glenn Cook, and how do you go about your film study of quarterbacks for all the amateurs out there? Because we have a lot of people, I don't know if you know this or not, on social media, that have very strong opinions on these quarterbacks that I'm not sure they've necessarily watched them, but their opinions are very strong.
Yeah.
So what tips would you give them on how to watch quarterbacks, and what is it that you're looking for?
Yeah, no, I'm not mad at the fans. I think every team, I grew up, rooting for a specific team in the North called the Packers, and saw some pretty good quarterback play, and it's, it gives you, there's just this hope that you have. And
how far do you go back with the Packer quarterbacks?
I'd say probably 95, 94, 95.
So is that Favre?
Yeah, no, it's definitely
but
right.
But no Magic Man?
No.
Okay, so it's his 61st birthday.
Yeah.
I just came across that on social media. Don Magikowski.
No,
All right, go on.
I started being a fan prior on.
By the way, nice run for you.
Yeah,
Brett Favre into Aaron Rodgers.
It was
not
a nice
bad.
Run. Nice run. But I think it leads into probably one of the things that to me is something you just have to take note of. And it's just I always remember as a kid when Brett got the ball, in the fourth quarter or in a pivotal moment.
You felt good.
It was hope.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You knew.
You felt good. You had a chance.
This is going to be a good thing.
Yes.
Or we got a shot to probably pull this one out. So I think that's what the position is all about. Like, it's a really important position. I think it's the most important position far beyond just because it's so complicated, but because of that dynamic and that I think the control it has over so many other things when it comes to your team, your organization, your city, honestly, like bleeding into the entire state and country with your fans. And so when you have a guy, pulling the strings in key situations, and you just feel good about them making plays and putting your team, your offense in position to make plays, that goes way beyond what people think, and even to the other side of the ball, right? Like when your defense knows if we get off the field here,
They're
and
gonna
we
go
get
score.
our guy the ball back, we got it. This might be a good thing, and so there's that additional hope.
It raises everybody.
It's you can't put a value on it. It's so invaluable to have someone at that position that can play that way. That's probably, honestly, if I had to boil it down to one thing, if you can go into arm strength and you go into accuracy and all these other things. Like when you boil it down, that's what people are saying when they look at them, right? Like whatever the combination of their talents, because I think we've seen it enough throughout the league that there's
many different ways to play.
Many different ways to build out that position, and the way these guys come up and the way they've developed, there's just so many unique skill sets. But when you boil it down, the really good ones have that capability, and that's not something you can buy.
No. I always say the best quarterbacks in the NFL can throw the ball when they have to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And that kind of as a converse to what you said, it's if I'm a fan of my team and their quarterback gets the ball back down 6, how scared am I?
Yeah.
The more scared I am, the better that they are, right? You want to have a quarterback that makes the other fan base and the other team, obviously, very nervous in that. So when you're watching, obviously some of that would be what I would call clutch meter, people who have the ability to just be better when it matters the most. There are also, as you mentioned, there are physical traits, right? Arm strength. But there are kind of intangibles. It's the instincts, the ability to quickly process information, decipher a coverage, know where to go with the football, and then be able to deliver that football on time and accurately. When you watch, if you're going through quarterbacks, take me through your process of what you do. You start a play. Take me through just one play of a quarterback, how you approach it, what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think ultimately, like they're the captain of the offense, right? So it's from how they break the huddle, right, to when they get to the line of scrimmage, just sort of trying to glean how much control they have of what's happening. And obviously with different systems, there's different latitude in terms of checks, audibles, hots, etc.
Sure.
So you can't don't overdo it in terms of watching them, but you just want to get a sense of like, okay, how much control do they have in the pre-snap process for the offense? And then again, when the ball snaps, it kind of comes down to some of the things you said, but also just, all right, how are they moving the football? How is this offense moving the football? Are they getting the guys the ball in the right spots? Are they doing it in a timely fashion? Are they doing it with the right pace on the football? Can they put touch on the ball when they need to put touch on it? Can they drive it when they need to drive it? Right? It's there again. You ask the position to do so many things. You want to see how many times they display that ability throughout the course of every game. By the time we're done with this, we probably will have watched every game for the last 2.5 years of these guys, every throw, every key situation.
Over and over.
Over and over and over again. And you want to walk away feeling good that if this guy gets in this situation and needs to deliver. I've seen enough examples, and you never know, like you never know when it's going to click too. They may come in as a rookie and light it up. It may take them a few years, but you want to have enough confidence that you've seen the ability in them at some point in their career to execute on the things you believe. And honestly, that's just at the player level. But then you probably have to take a step back and think about your system once you complete.
So that's what I was going to
that
ask
and
you. What's
understand.
more important and I'm sure the answer is yes, all. But for example, I think in this draft there's a fair. I'll say you don't have to comment on it. There seems to be somewhat of a consensus outside of perhaps NFL rooms, just in the people I talk to in the media, that Cam is the more toolsy, obviously clearly put tape on, better arm, some of those things more toolsy. Shador might be the best pure passer in the sense that in structure, on time, incredibly accurate, the throwing motion, all of those things. And seems like might be a good fit for kind of a system like that we would run under Kevin Stefanski. How do you just personally, is it get the clay and we can make it work in our system, or, oh, this guy does, his best traits are what we are the most important things for us to do for a quarterback?
Yes, like you said, it's just
all of the above, which is fair.
Just, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's really important to, you got to find the right weight for both for you, and that's why it's really important for the alignment with your offense. I think if you look across the league, there's a lot of synergy between that interplay,
Has
right?
to be.
Between what you want to do, what you need to do it, and who's the right player or the right players to execute on that. So you can't put 100% weight on just like, oh, this dude's just got the best quote unquote arm talent, but we need to do this within our system, and you can't just be fully, in my opinion, fully on the other end of the spectrum of like, well, this is what we do, and if X player can't do this, they have no chance. I think the teams that are really, really good do a nice job of blending the two.
Building around the strengths.
And honestly understanding that those things carry different weights, honestly, at different points of their careers too,
Totally.
right? Like there may be a time where you do need to put a little bit more weight on, like, hey, let's build a really, really good system around this guy, put a cocoon around him and allow him to grow, right? And so this is the way we're going to play. And then, boom, take
Look at Lamar in our
the
division.
training rules off and let him roll. And then there's some guys where it's just like, hey, that's
do your thing.
That's the dude. You don't constrain him from being him because he's already ready. So I think that's where, our for us would be Kevin and Andrew. I know they're going to do a great job with this if we were to be in that position. Like, you got to have great leadership and work through that as an organization and do the right thing for said player if you get in that position. So.
All right. Well, we know Glenn's going to want a gunslinger because Brett Favre. That has to shape who you are as a young man and a quarterback evaluator.
I just want to win.
You want to win, exactly.
Like,
however you get there.
However you get there, I want guys.
All right, we'll get you out of here on this one. A year ago, if you and I had sat down here together, the position that we are in right now probably would have seemed unfathomable, and justifiably so. Right, coming off of the playoff appearance, haven't had a first-round pick in 3 years, and yet here we are, back into the first round and picking second. An opportunity to really kind of right the course and rechange the trajectory of the franchise with an asset that we never thought we would have, but here it is. We have it. How does that kind of play into everything, if at all, in terms of, man, we haven't gotten to be here with a first-round pick in 3 years. Now we do, and guess what? It's number 2.
Yeah. I would say, I guess I'll work in reverse. I think it's an honor to be in that position because you could be in a different position, right, where you've had a season like that. Maybe you're not picking in the first round, or maybe you're picking late because the pick has been moved or something like that. So we are fortunate that, hey, we got a chance to add a really good player. You can trade up, you can sit, you can trade back. Like we're in a really good position in terms of how to maximize the opportunity, right? However that is, that could be a player who helps expedite or build on that trajectory. It could be acquiring more picks, which has been done to then complete the same thing. And so it's great to be in that position. Like, one, it's like we've acknowledged it was a rough year. Andrew has talked about it. It was a rough year, and I don't think any of us would say we were excited about how that played out. But part of that process is also stepping back and saying, okay, what do we need to do in order to accomplish the things that we want to do? And, being at pick 2 puts us in I wouldn't say pole position, but it puts us in a pretty good spot to execute, And so at the end of the day, and you think about it on the field too, it's about executing,
Yep.
And so I think our staff, the coaches, the personnel group, we understand it's really important for us to execute this season and in seasons beyond to build what we want to build here. So that's the focus. You can't focus on the pick right now. We can't make it for a couple months, but we got to make sure at every step of the way. We talked about the combine at the beginning of this. We got to execute while we're here. So we got boots on the ground. People are grinding. We're trying to get as much information as we can. Complete that, and then we move to the next phase, which is pro days, kind of going back and cycling through these guys with another, cadre of information that we have from the testing or just spending time with them, executing that, and then when we get to draft night, we got to execute on the pick, and so we want to make the city proud, make the organization proud, and we will accomplish that.
I love it, Glenn. Well, let's get you back out there, get some more information. Thanks so much for the time, and good luck.
Yep.